Hey guys, this is Stacy from eatthebite.com, and today I'm making a French onion crostini appetizer which tastes just like the top of French onion soup. So, let me show you how to make it. We'll start by slicing a couple of onions. We'll cut the onions in half like you see here, and then into thin slices that look about like this. We'll take all those onions and throw them in a big pan. We'll add some olive oil, salt, and pepper. I'm going to start cooking that off to the side while I do my other prep work. You can use dried thyme for this recipe, but if you're using fresh, just gently pull the leaves from the thyme stems like you see here. Then we're going to dice that down fine into small bits and set that aside for now. I've got one 4.9 ounce package of Gruyere cheese, and I do usually cut off the hardened ends before I shred it. Next, I'm going to shred the whole block of cheese and set that aside as well. Let's talk about bread next. You could use these olive oil ciabatta sticks, which I've used many times, including my recent canned crab toasties, and these are a great size for crostini and they're delicious. Next, I have a fantastic pre-sliced option, which will also work for these. As you can see, they're slightly bigger than the ciabatta sticks. Picking the right bread is up to you. Ciabatta or French bread slices both work great. The larger slice like I'm using make about 20 crostinis, so I laid them all out on a sheet pan and brushed the tops with olive oil. I used 2 small sheet pans, but you can use 1 large sheet pan if you prefer. I'm going to check on my onions, I'm going to add the thyme, give everything a good mix around, and with caramelized onions, low to medium heat works well. As the onions start softening, you can gently break them apart with your spatula. And you're going to stir the onions once every few minutes for about 20 to 30 minutes. At the end of the process, and this is optional, I did add a little bit of sugar here. Then I mixed to combine it with the onions. And at the very end of the cooking process, we'll add some port wine. You could also use a little beef broth here as well if you have it on hand. So we'll add that port wine here, give it a stir until the wine cooks off and mostly evaporates. And right at the end, this is what your onion should look like. Now it's time to assemble the crostinis. Take a small forkful of those amazing onions and place them on top of the bread slices. And pace yourself here. This is going to require eyeballing skills to portion this out evenly. Once all the onions have been distributed, take a pinch of Gruyere cheese and place on top of the onions. After all the crostinis have cheese on top, we're going to bake these in a preheated oven at 400 degrees for about 10 to 15 minutes until they are melty and crunchy and golden brown around the edges. And here they are, right out of the oven. In terms of presentation, I put mine on a small platter and sprinkled some fresh parsley, which I had on hand, and that's optional. I also added some of the extra fresh thyme as well. Just a few small pinches with the thyme is all you need. Next, I took a few fresh thyme sprigs and placed them around the platter like you see here. For a little splash of color, I did have some craisins on hand and placed some throughout the platter. And here's our platter of French onion crostinis ready to serve. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll leave you with my live taste test of these delicious French onion crostinis. These just came out of the ovens. They're really hot. You might need a little spatula to get these off, by the way. Ooh, that onion got stuck torn between 2 lovers here, huh? Yeah, it might be too hot to eat, but I'm gonna do it anyway and burn my mouth. Just for you. No, I'm kidding. Oh. That was really good. Let me turn that water off so we don't hear that in the background. I'm not really sure how that happened, but I can see that becoming a problem as I continue my taste test. Right off the bat, I'm going to tell you, I do kind of like the idea of adding that sugar at the end. I don't always do it, but for this I wanted to, it's not overly sweet by any stretch, but it's giving it a nice little extra something. Little hint of sweetness. This is really delicious. I love this because it tastes like the top of a, what they put on top of French onion soup. And you could put a fig on here too, I bet. That would be a nice addition. I love the crunch. The onion flavor is spot on. This is a great little appetizer. And this is pretty easy to make. It's onions and cheese and bread, when you think about it. If you have not introduced Gruyere cheese into your life, please do it with this recipe. It's one of my favorite cheeses. It's really just spectacular. And even if you think you haven't had Gruyere, you most likely have if you've eaten French onion soup, because this is what they put on top of your French onion soup, a crusty bread with melted Gruyere cheese. Or in some restaurants that are cheaper, they might just throw a little Swiss on top. But you're supposed to use Gruyere, from what I understand. The Gruyere complements the onion flavor so well. I'm glad I went with these pre-sliced breads this time. It just made it a little bit easier. You don't have to think about slicing the bread evenly. These were sliced evenly, like they were on a machine or something, but the sizes were a little bit off, which is why I couldn't quite fit 5 in a row on this one, but I could on this one. So that's fine. And 2 onions was a perfect amount, and 1 4.9 ounce package of Gruyere cheese was a perfect amount. I had just enough for 20. This is really delicious. And this is a very easy appetizer. I'm going to dress it up a little bit. I'm going to garnish it with probably some parsley, which is optional, and maybe some thyme sprigs. All right, I'm going to do the platter right now.